Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another salvage auction analysis. This video is going to be a little bit differently because we're not going to be focusing on one car like we did in previous videos. This video we're going to be talking about how to spot a Copart scam.
It's a trap!
There is one specific car that I'm going to key in on because it is a very glaringly obvious example of what I want to talk about. And it happens to run at auction today, but I'm also gonna show you a little bit later in the video a couple other cars that maybe are a little bit different than the things that I'm gonna show you to look out for when you're looking to purchase a vehicle from Copart. This first one, we're gonna log into the Copart app and we are gonna pull it up. It happens to be a 2019 Challenger Scat Pack that is gonna be running at auction here in a couple minutes. And one of the first things that you want to watch out for on these cars, they always have a buy it now price, and they always are on reserve or have a minimum bid. Now, this car, because it is about to run at auction, it doesn't have the buy it now price put up right now, but it had a buy it now of $17,500 all week long. And when I show you the auction history on this car, you're gonna get to see that buy it now of $17,500. So we're gonna hop into the pictures here, and really, I saw this and thought that it might be a good rebuild project. Orange is a great thumbnail car for YouTube, grabs attention, and this car is a manual transmission. So I thought, hey, this could be a quick flip, make a little bit of money. I don't think there's a ton of money in it as a rebuild, but the further I dug in, the more I realized what this car actually was. So first thing that I want to draw your attention to is this front fender. If you know anything about Mopars, you can tell that that is a narrow body front fender. It doesn't have the extra, it has holes and the stamping. It's just different for the wide body cars. And obviously this car is a wide body car. You get to the back here where there's no damage and you can see, again, it's a wide body car. The back end of the car looks completely fine. So a narrow body fender, especially painted the correct color orange, doesn't just randomly make its way onto a car like this, which means that it was put there intentionally. You look at the hood and really it just looks extremely messed up given the rest of the presentation for this car. And what I'm talking about here is you will see on these rerun cars that they have body panels loosely mounted back in place, sometimes not even the correct body panel on the car, and they just look out of place because the car was originally damaged more than this or in a different manner than how it's being presented right now. So as we keep scrolling, another back end picture, and then we get to the interior. You can see the manual transmission, which is what started my intrigue with this car. And the other thing that you can see is an airbag on the steering wheel there that is clearly blown, but the airbag is not present. If you view a little bit further up on the dash, you can see the exact same thing. And then when you come over to the seat, you see the same thing again. Another massive telltale sign of a car that is a rerun car through Copart auction is the airbags being cut out of it. It's something that I guess the people that do this, they think that it looks better in pictures, they think that it presents better, but really it's just a giant red flag if you see airbags cut, because that means that it's not coming from an insurance company. An insurance company, they don't do that. They don't clean it up like that. So if you see that, giant red flag. If you didn't know already that it was a car that was being rerun through the auction, you know now. This car is a run and drive, and one thing that I want to pay attention to for my purposes is when we run the auction history, I want to see if the first time at auction, this car was a run and drive. Because to play devil's advocate, these rerun cars are not always just giant scams. A lot of the times they are, where they're trying to deceive, misrepresent, things along those lines. Sometimes you see cars rerun through the auction and it will originally have not run and somebody will actually get it running. Now the problem with Copart is you don't have run videos, so you don't know if it's running correctly, and that's a very important distinction to make when you're buying cars salvage auction. Now, this picture of the engine bay here, at first glance, it doesn't really look like anything crazy, but then you kind of zoom in and you see the way they have this mounted up. Why would there be damage to the throttle body? Because everything else looks to be in place, and you can see pretty much what originally smashed into that throttle body. But in this picture, it actually looks relatively okay. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to, and I can only zoom in so far, look at the position of the shock towers. If you actually look at them, they are not lined up. And again, I've already looked at the previous auction photos from this car. I'm going to show you them here in just a minute, and you're going to see why those shock towers are not lined up. The last thing before we leave Copart that I want to draw your attention to is the title. On these auction rerun cars, they almost never have a title in the state that they are being run in. This has a Tennessee salvage certificate, so it has a Tennessee title. It came from Tennessee, and it is being run through Houston, Texas. Now, there are exceptions to those rules. One of the big ones where you can get just people from all different states is military. You get military bases all over the country, and sometimes they'll have a car, you know, tagged in California, and they'll be stationed over here at Dover Air Force Base. So that does happen, but it is not very often. The other thing is neighboring states. If you see a New York car that is being run through, you know, New Jersey, they are neighboring states. It's not that far-fetched of an idea to say that somebody that lives in New York City came over to New Jersey, they wrecked their car, the car got taken to a Copart lot in New Jersey. That does happen. But when you see a car like a Florida title, for example, and it's in New York, probably not. Now, you might make the argument for, you know, the snow bunnies that travel down and back and everything like that, but if you see a car that has a title in a state where it's not being run, it's another red flag that you need to do your research. Speaking of research, we're gonna hop over, plug this VIN in for the auction history, and I'm gonna show you guys what this thing looked like originally. We'll go ahead and copy this. We use autoauctionhistory.com. There's plenty of great sites that you can use for this. Honestly, if you don't want to sign up for a site, you can just plug it into Google. If you Google a VIN on a car, it's going to pull up a lot of information and give you more insight than what you had previously. So what you see here is you see the previous bidding, and these pictures are all the same. There's that buy now, 17,500. It says final bid. All that means is that it had a bid of 17,000, or it had a buy now, 17,500. Doesn't mean that it bid that at 15.5 there. That might have been an actual bid for the car. 16.6, add 18.5. I'm guessing they had an original buy now of 18.5 on it. 16, 17.9 as they were bringing it down. Again, these are all the same auction pictures that we saw for that Texas listing. And as we keep scrolling, oh, that looks a little bit different, doesn't it? The original bid on this, it was bought for $9,600. And you can see these pictures aren't really that great, but this thing was absolutely whacked. Absolutely whacked. And that is why it looks very different now in the current auction pictures. So as we scroll down, you can see that mangled hood that they had to have flattened out to get it to mount on there. The bumper is mounted better, and then the fender is just replaced entirely. Again, I can't really zoom in enough and the picture is not clear enough for you to see it, but that fender was not usable. So they went ahead and either, I guess, painted a narrow body fender, who knows, but they went through some effort to make it look better in the second round of auction pictures. There you go. You see those airbags in the interior that have not been cut out of the car. You can also see in the one picture there that the overhead curtain airbags blew, which is not uncommon whatsoever, but when you cut the airbags out, you can tuck the headliner back up and makes that look a little bit better. It does look like this car did run in this auction also. I was curious on that if it didn't run previously, but God, look at how bad that thing is hit. It is absolutely whacked. Now, if you were buying this car as a parts car like us here at Leasey Parts, If the money was right on it, then the previous auction history, it might not make that much of a difference. We're always going to look because, again, there are malicious examples of this at auction. But if you were buying this car to fix this car, what I just showed you, it makes a massive amount of difference. And if you paid the type of money where you thought you could fix that car and either keep it for yourself or fix it and make some money on it, if you saw that shock tower damage when it showed up, I mean, your heart would just sink. Like, that completely changes the repair on that car. And examples of this are all over the place on Copart. This car is about to run. We're going to watch. We're going to see what it sells for. It's entirely possible that it doesn't sell. I would guess that it's probably not going to, but we're going to watch it anyway. And then I'm going to show you a couple other examples after this car runs at auction. We'll do a quick change of scenery here, get out into the shop as this thing is just about to run at auction. Starting bid, $13,600 on this, and just like the last car, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there are no bids on it like we discussed earlier. There you go, sold on approval. That one will not be being approved. And two things that we didn't discuss earlier. The suspension damage on that car. Obviously, it had some suspension damage on it, so that's something that they switched up. Whether they actually put suspension parts on it, I'm going to guess no, and that they kind of just cut, welded, positioned stuff as best as possible. The other side of it is the money that they need to cover on that car, right? Bid on it was $9,600. Say all in with fees, they're into it for maybe about like 11.5 or something like that. Shipping from Tennessee to Texas, I have to imagine, was about $500. So say they have 12 grand that they need to cover, plus their time, energy, all of that, which is why you always see those cars on approval, on reserve, minimum bid, because they have a minimum amount of money that they need to cover their expenses on that car. They want to make money on it, and that's why you see those cars not selling very often. It does look like there were a lot of people that were keen to it at the bid price. Again, like a parts car or something like that, like there's some money there. A wide body car, there's some money for sure. But anybody that's looking to fix that car, I truly hope that they see what we saw. And speaking of that, let's head back into the office. I want to show you guys some other examples of these auction cars that are reruns. First one is another Challenger, and this one really stands out because, again, I saw this car this week. It has a buy it now. It has a Illinois salvage certificate. It's being run through Houston. If I'm gonna guess, this might be the same either individual, organization, business. I haven't actually looked this up, so let's go ahead and see. We're gonna copy this to the clipboard, and we are going to plug this in. Let's just check the auction history to start with. Scrolling. Oh, there we go. What do you know that this thing, and it doesn't give me a location. That's the only thing. But what do you know? We got some different auction pictures from this particular car. Kind of just take notes here. You see smashed hood, smashed passenger fender, windshield smashed real bad. We have the airbags on the inside of the car. Front bumper laying there on the ground. All right, let's go back to the auction photos. And we still don't have a front bumper. Does have a little bit of rear damage. You can see how obvious it is that they pulled out that fender and hood. There's just little marks from them either hitting it with a hammer or something along those lines. Still, I'm surprised they didn't hang the front bumper back on the car. I wonder if it didn't make its way to them. And there you go, the cut airbags. So again, this one stood out like a sore thumb. That was kind of an easy one because it's running through the exact same auction and we just looked at this same exact car. So this is somebody that must, you know, kind of specialize in picking those cars off and trying to represent them better to make a little bit of extra money. Now, this next one that I'm gonna show you is this Porsche 996 Turbo, and this one doesn't fit the mold of what I just showed you with these Challengers. The only reason that I know that this is a rerun is because we tried to buy it like 2 weeks ago, and it is just listed for more money. It has a buy it now of like $44,500, and I think the final bid on it a couple weeks ago was like $35,000 or something like that. So this one stands out because it has the bright red wheels. It has beautiful interior with some of the red accents and just looks like a very, very high option car. And then in the engine bay, I remember it having the red charge pipes on it. So this one doesn't completely fit everything that I just showed you, but one thing that it does have is it has a Colorado title on it, and it is being sold through Dallas, Texas. So again, at least that tells you, hey, you need to dig a little bit deeper on this one. I think that this Porsche Turbo is just somebody that thought that it was a good deal and can flip it for a couple extra bucks, which is fine. That's part of the automotive market. What I am most worried about is educating you so that way you can spot the potential scams that are trying to deceive, whether it be mechanical parts taken out of the car, whether it be hidden damage like some of the ones I showed you earlier, the ones that you really need to watch out for if you are looking to maybe invest in a rebuild project starting with a salvage auction car. Now, one more that I have on the watch list that is readily available is this GTR right here being sold out of Syracuse, New York with a Missouri salvage title. Now, again, this one, it looks like it is just somebody that is trying to flip this car for a couple bucks. And we know this car because Lee looked at this car in person in St. Louis a couple weeks ago. You can check out on his channel. He did a whole reel on it, going over the damage. It's absolutely whacked. It's very easily identifiable because of the exterior color and then also the age of the modifications. As we get to the engine bay here, this is an absolutely ancient alpha kit on this car. So again, I think that this one is just somebody that is trying to make a couple bucks moving this thing through auction, which again, I don't have a problem with. It's the people that run these cars through auction that are trying to deceive to make a couple bucks. One of the big ones that you want to watch out for right now is there are still cars that have come out of Florida from the hurricane a little over a year ago. Most of them are Florida certificates of destruction. You cannot title the cars again. There are a lot of them out in California. There are a lot of them in New York State. So you need to be careful. If a car looks too good to be true, make sure that you look at all the information, because if it has a buy it now and you were to buy one of those cars and you didn't look at the title, you are completely stuck with that car. It is nothing but a parts car. Supposedly there's some loopholes through like Tennessee or something like that, but the last thing that you want to do is not be educated, not do your research, and end up getting stuck with a car that isn't what you think it is. So hopefully you've learned a little bit on this video, or maybe confirmed some trends that you've noticed yourself. If you are buying cars from salvage auction, research, research, research. Know what you're buying, know the history on the car you're buying as best you possibly can. So again, hopefully this helps some people out. I'm going to have some more of these salvage auction videos that are going to be coming down the line with the analysis. And there's some good stuff running at auction coming up. There always is, but there's always some good cars, 1-2 cars a week. And I'm going to try and pick at least one of those out to do an analysis on, and just kind of spread some knowledge on the salvage auction game here, because that's what we do every single day. So plenty of fun, big projects on the main Scrap Life Garage channel, and more fun stuff here on the Scrap Life channel. I will see you in the next video.